The broadcast is now starting.
Okay, good morning, everybody. This is the Managing the Dynamics 365 online environment, and we're going to be working, of course, with version 9, which is kind of sort of what a lot of people have. I think a lot of people are still on version 8.2, and that's all good. My name is Mitch Milam. You can reach me at my email address, on Twitter, connect with me on LinkedIn, and of course, all of these webinars are recorded and put on YouTube, and you can subscribe to the channel. I'd recommend that because I'm going to start putting some stuff up there on YouTube that is not webinars, it's just other stuff that I come up with. Sorry, I'm trying to clear everything out again. Okay. There we go. Okay, I have some training up on my learn.xlearncoaches.com. It's JavaScript. There's free courses and paid courses, so you can extend your JavaScript knowledge. I'd recommend that for anybody who is getting started with either JavaScript or Dynamics 365 specific JavaScript. So something to take a look at. Again, you can learn a whole lot for free, and if you want to go past that, you can sign up for the paid course. That's how that works. A little bit of webinar housekeeping here. Everybody's muted, of course. If you want to say something, just type it in the question box, or if you raise your hand, you can. I'll unmute you and you can ask a question. So as we go through this, we'll be doing that stuff. So that's the end of my webinar. How about that? Now let me get to my thing here. Okay, so we're diving straight into the administration. There's no slides. You got the entire slide deck there. So this is the Dynamics 365 Administration Center. You get to this, if you've never been here, by going to the portal.office.com, and there's an admin button here. You click that, and it will take you to this lovely thing here. You expand admin centers, and we have the Dynamics 365 Admin Center, and that will lead you here. So this lets you do everything that you can do with the instances within your tenant. Okay, so let's start talking about the users and things like that. So you add users to Office 365. Then you assign a license to those users, and that gives them the capabilities of access to different pieces of software, such as Dynamics 365. If they don't have a license, they can't see the software and therefore cannot log in. So you buy the license, you assign the licenses, and then they have access. There is a period of time where it will actually move the user data from Office 365 into Dynamics 365. The time varies from seconds to minutes. If it takes longer than an hour, say, you probably have an issue, or they have an issue, or both, quite honestly. So those things do happen occasionally, but usually the data or the users will be moved over fairly quickly. Okay. So within this, we have within this tenant, we have instances. So let's talk about exactly what the difference is between a tenant and an instance. The tenant is technically the container for authentication. So in this case, it's Office 365. It could be also your Active Directory within your network if you've set up a federation with Office 365 and Azure. All of the authentication that is in Dynamics 365 comes from Office 365, which relies on Azure for authentication, if you didn't know that. So all three of these things actually work together. So the tenant is a container for all things related to authentication and security as far as the actual application layer. So you define, again, the people that are in your system. You define what products they have access to through the licensing, and then they get access to the various pieces, and then from that point forward, you go into the actual products, such as Dynamics 365, and give them the rights to do things within that. So usually when you add somebody to Dynamics 365, they do not have a security role. If you do not have a security role, you can't do anything within the system. So once you get into the actual product, Dynamics 365, you will have instances. So these are databases, is really truly what these are, or organizations, as what the technical term is internally. As you can see here, I have a variety of these things. There are production instances, there are sandbox instances, and there are trial instances. The trial instances are stuff that I have signed up for. Like I think one of these is for marketing. I can't remember which one it is. I think it's this one. Maybe it's this one. Nope, that's not it. One of these is for the Dynamics marketing preview that came out. So here is one very interesting and some would say scary thing about the trials. The Office 365 group modified the trial process, and again, this is my understanding. Anyone can go sign up for a trial, and what will happen is it will add them to their tenant. If they log in to their, whenever you sign up for a trial, it's going to ask you who you are. One of the things is, hey, I recognize you as being somebody already in our system, like Office 365. Would you like to sign in with those credentials? If they say yes, it will create a trial for them and give it to them and then add it to the tenant. You as an administrator have no capability to understand who did that. It will just show up like this. And since you were not the one who did this, you can't find out who's in it because you don't have access to it. That could happen. I have seen that happen to a customer. I think they're going to fix that at some point, but as it is today in April 2018, that is what I've seen. Like I said, I don't think they've actually fixed it. So what happens is we literally I was on a customer site and we were trying to sign them up for a trial to do a test. And they're like, well, we've already got a trial. I'm like, and they're like, who did this? And so they literally spent the next hour and a half calling around trying to figure out who did it. And then we find out that that the change was made where anybody could sign up for a trial and they could actually add it to their tenant without being an administrator. And since the way it works is the person who signs up for the trial has administrator access to that instance, they basically, no one else knows who it is or how to get into it. Okay, so when you sign up for Dynamics 365 online and you have more than 25 users, you get a production instance and a sandbox instance. So production is what you put your users in. A sandbox is used for testing and development. Both of these have different functionality that you can do. So for instance, if I have a sandbox, I have a whole bunch of functionality here. If I have production, not really so much. So what you do is you can change certain things with it. So let's just kind of walk through them. So if we do edit on this production instance, I can change the name. I can change the URL. I can change the type from production to sandbox. This is if you take a production instance and you move it to a sandbox instance, it's called a demotion. Just like a job, you're getting promoted or demoted. So this is a demotion. The thing is, you have to have the instance available to you to actually move the database into. So if you look down here, I have an instance to configure. It is a sandbox instance, and what happens is this is an empty placeholder. I have not allocated this yet. So to demote Contoso into a sandbox, I have to have this one free. If I don't have any of them, then what will happen is that basically will say, hey, you don't have anything to demote into, so I can't do that. We can copy the instance of production. So you pick your instance, you specify if it's a full or minimal copy. The difference being full copy is indeed full copy. It's everything. And then the minimal instance is really just the metadata, etc. So the schema and all the your customizations that you made and stuff like that. This is useful when you want to move a production instance back down into a sandbox. Development is quite common for development to need updated data, updated customer data, so they can work with something. And usually it's a multi-step process. So what you do is you move the database or the instance back to a sandbox, and then you run some kind of script using Scribe or SSIS through Kingsway Soft's package, and you clean out any PII or personal information data. So very common, you take out all the emails, all the phone numbers, anything, and quite honestly, a lot of what you do is you actually change everything, like the names and stuff, because you can't, it's not really viable to have real person's information at all inside of a development environment. When I was working at a customer a couple years ago, was on premises, but we actually wrote a cleanup script that whenever we copied or restored the production backup into development, we actually did all that. So we removed all the fax numbers, all the phone numbers, all the emails, and then we physically changed the person's name, first and last name, to a totally random name so that we could not physically identify who this person was. And that was just part of the PII stuff. Okay, so that's just kind of something you do. Okay, notifications is basically just saying, hey, who do I notify when things go bad? Now, Sandbox has a lot of interesting things here. So the edit button works pretty much the same way. We can change the name, the URL, purpose. As you see here, let's pop up. Okay. You have no production instance licenses available. So I can't promote this into a production instance because I have no license left. Reset is what you do when you want to start from scratch. So this is absolutely exactly what it says. It resets the instance into something else from scratch. So you can actually, believe it or not, at least in my case, I may have a special one here, I don't know for sure, but I could specify the version. I could specify what products I want to start out with. So sales, customer service, field service, and project service. So any of these, all of these, or none of these. Again, the name I can change, the URL, etc. And this will actually go through and I'm assuming the way it works is it just deletes the database and creates a new one. That's probably the most efficient way because it removes all of the data. So there's no data left. Copy is very similar to the, or exactly same as the other one. So basically we just copy from one instance to another. Again, this is really cool if you're doing stuff. Delete is pretty scary. It will delete the database or the organization. And luckily, because I had to do this one day because I needed to upgrade to version 9 and I couldn't wait 2 months on one of my sandboxes. So what I did is I said, yes, I am going to do this. And I basically clicked yes, and it went away. And then I sat here and didn't breathe for about 4 minutes and kept hitting the refresh button. And then finally it popped up with the instance to configure. So what it does is it physically deletes the organization from the system with the database, I'm assuming, along with it. And then it returns that instance into the pool of whatever sandbox or production. Okay. So that's kind of used sparingly, quite honestly, and definitely not on your production instance. In fact, I guess you could do it on production, but be very careful with that. You can enter as administration mode. I've never had to do this, but what this does is this will actually allow you to put the system in a state where you can work on it. So that users can't log in. Like I said, I've never actually had to do that, but it is in here. Okay. See, Naveed says reset will only gives you the option their base products, or it can be our in-house customization based. So, okay, what Naveed is asking is on the reset, will it give you only these 4 options, or can you restart from your base customizations? The answer is only these. It doesn't know nor care about your customization, Naveed. So basically, it's just these things. This is a starting point it can start with. So what you could do if you want to start from scratch, I would probably say select none of these, or maybe say it depends what you work with. Maybe sales, customer service, and then load your solution file into that. Sorry about that. Okay, so very recently they added the ability to choose your region. Now, there is a thing called a MultiGeo Tenant. What a MultiGeo Tenant is exactly what it sounds like. It is a tenant that has the ability to contain instances from any of the data centers within the Dynamics 365 system. So this is very useful if you have an operation. You know, Germany is very particular about their data, as everyone probably knows by now. So we have to have the German data in the German data center and only in the German data center. We have data centers in United States, in Canada, in Europe, in Germany, India, Australia, Asia, it's Brazil. There's like 9 of them now, I think. So what will happen here, this is a filter is what this is. So, hey, show me only sandboxes. And I could also filter out by region if I had a MultiGeo tenant. This is not a MultiGeo tenant. And this is all documented on within the docs.microsoft.com. So anyway, there is the capability to do that. So the idea here is you have, let's make an assumption that you are using federation with Dynamics 365. So you've connected your Active Directory to the Azure Active Directory and therefore Office 365. You can only synchronize with one forest. That's what they call it. Okay. So that means if I have acme.com, I am going to synchronize acme.com. If I have another login for europe.acme.com, that could be a different forest. That doesn't work like that. You can only synchronize one unless they've changed things and nobody told me. That's also, remember, always a possibility they can change things. So what happens is I need people based on their geography to go into a specific data center, CRM system. So I have the MultiGeo turned on my tenant, and that allows me to actually create instances in a specific geography, but I still manage them from this singular console. People only have one login. And then what you do through the synchronization of users to the Office 360, to the Dynamics 365 instance, what you do is you actually give them access to the instance itself. And you can do that in 2 different ways. The first is you can do a security group. So this is an Office 365 security group. And what this will do is it will allow you to create a group that you manage within Office 365, and adding and removing people from the group will give them access to specific instances. So what will happen is if they're not in the instance, if they're not in the security group, they will not be created as users within the Dynamics 365 system. Otherwise, everybody gets access, to my knowledge. Everybody gets access. You just have to go and turn the security rules on. This is a way to keep, say you have 10,000 users and you have them distributed around the world. You don't want 10,000 users in every single instance. So what you do is you put a security group, put them in a security group, and then that's what gets synchronized to the actual instance itself. Okay. So let's talk about updates. So here is the update thing, and this is the update for installing major updates to the system. So as you can see here, I have a status of approved, no update available or scheduled, and then the date for schedule. So I'm basically just now converting some of these to 9.0 because I didn't want to mess with them, to be quite honest. So the rest of them, if you look over here on the right-hand side, if you click on it, it will actually show you the current version that you have. If you click on one that has a update available, it's what is the other status it can have over here. It will tell you, okay, you're on 8.2 and you should go to 9.0 if you would like. In this case, I have an update scheduled for May the 2nd, and if that doesn't work correctly, May the 16th. Okay. And then I can change the target version if I want to. Let's see what happens there. I wonder if they started putting the 9.02 out yet. I don't think so. Probably shouldn't have clicked any buttons in here. It's very slow. Okay, we'll do that later. Service health. So this is how you are running. Okay. If there are issues system-wide or with your what they call scale group, which is your group of servers responsible for your instance, it'll be listed here. It also shows you the amount of storage that you have used in a specific instance, and at the top you have what you what you can, how much you actually have that you purchased. If you go to backup and restore, so the system automatically makes a backup every day. So at this one, it made it at 8 o'clock in the morning, roughly, almost 8 o'clock. And then we can actually restore these if we want. So you basically pick up or you select your instance you want, and the backup that this is a system backup, and then you can restore it. I can also create a new backup. So I can give it a label, a name, and then here's the product version, and so I can make a manual backup. And at this point, somebody is going to ask me, how long do these backups last? And I will tell you, I forgot. I think it's 7 days, 9 days, 7 days. Somebody else knows. Larry, what is it? Oh my gosh, somebody's got to know that. This is embarrassing. Pam says 3 to 5 days? 3 days. Okay, 3 days. So this is not a long-term thing. So if you're doing say you're doing a development and you want to back it up before you push it out, you've got a very finite window. My understanding from talking to somebody one time is that they actually retain the backups for longer, but you have to open a support case to get them restored. And again, this is a system restoration. This is not, hey, Billy Joe Bob went and deleted all the contacts out of the database. Can you restore the contact table? That is not this. That's the whole thing. So if this happened a week ago and you restore from 8 days ago, you're going to lose 7 days of data. So keep that in mind. So this is a full system restoration. Now, I also am making a very broad assumption that it does list the version number. If you are sliding over the version window, it probably may not restore properly. It may. I don't really think about that. So there's that. Applications. So this is my understanding of this, and the reason why it's my understanding because I've never actually gone out and looked. These are all of the solutions, at least from a Microsoft standpoint, that I have actually installed somewhere in my system on any instance and has additional configuration. So you see a lot of these are actually portals. Okay, so this is a portal, and I can manage the portal from here. This is how it's actually done. So I should have clicked on this earlier. It won't take very long. Pam asked on backups, do they retain personal backups or just it's all system, Pam? So there is no such thing as a personal backup. So they retain those for, I don't know, if they're 30 days or so, I guess. I can't remember. I think it's 30 days, and then they get deleted. So you can manage anything with additional configuration. So if you kind of look at this, what we have here, we have portals, we have the customer service application, customer service hub, field service, project service. Remember, starting with version 9, all of the apps or all the apps within Dynamics are actually their own thing. Okay, so they're installed just like solutions or apps you would create yourself. So they're following exactly the same process and model. So some of these, as you see, like Inside View, there is no configuration to it because all you do is install it. But anything else, like here's the marketing, one of those trials I have is actually for the marketing thing. And so basically I can manage that from here. And again, this is just things that have been installed. So voice of the customer, again, more portals, not configured here. Version predict is enabled. So that's how all this stuff works. If I go back to one of my instances, and let's pick this one. Under solutions, you have the ability to manage the Microsoft related solutions that are part of the package, plus anything that you've installed that is like ISV commercial type stuff. So a couple things here. Again, these are at least all of the Microsoft stuff, and it's either installed or not installed. So you can install these from here. If there is an application that has an update, So for instance, the Dynamic 365 Sales application has a new version of 9.0.0.4. So I can actually upgrade that, and that will install the newest solution version. And again, most of this, if not all of it, is actually the Microsoft stuff. And why they put it here is so that you don't have to go out to AppSource every single time to actually download the latest version. That's the idea. So they put their code into a place where all you have to do is like, oh, here's a new version of PSA. Let me upgrade that. Now, sometimes things will not upgrade or install, for that matter. I've had that happen a couple times with different things, and these are Microsoft things. Realistically, the only way that you can figure out a way around it, because it doesn't really give you any data, it just says it did not install or something like that, is probably open a support case and say, hey, this won't install, the upgrade will not go. Can you look in the logs and find out why and help me do that? So that's what we've done here. So here is the version number, as you can see, and then if it has a lifespan, most of the Microsoft stuff has lives, way out into the future. 2020, 2050, etc. Okay. So this is pretty much how you manage the stuff. So I guess the last thing here, we can go into users. I could do it from that first panel if I wanted to. So here are the users. So let's see, where's me? I'm right here. So here is my product licenses that I have. And again, these are just switches, just turn on and off. You have to have the license available in order for you to add it to a person. As you can see here, marketing, there's 23 of 25, so I'm almost out of that. Parameters aren't used anymore even. Plenty of Power Apps, etc. So all you do is just turn them on or off. Some of these have, like CRM Online has multiple kind of sub-licenses that are part of it. So you can actually turn these on and off individually. So as you can see, I've allocated, because I got a bunch of test users in here. I got all 24 of my 25 licenses allocated. So I have one available to assign to a new person. That's just kind of FYI. So I can just turn these on or off. And if I turn them off, basically you won't have access, or that user will not have access to that application. Group memberships is what allows you to actually have additional functionality. So here are the members that I'm part of. So all kinds of funny things in here. Mail settings, OneDrive, etc. The rest of this is just standard Office. So roles, we have the most common role for most people is the global administrator. I can't change it on me, so let me go open up somebody else. How about Karen? She looks like a good person. We have a Dynamics 365 service administrator that allows them to do stuff within Office 365 that is very specific to Dynamics 365, but is not a global administrator. So this is something they added a few months ago, maybe a year ago, because people were like, hey, I'm not comfortable giving people access to my entire system just so they can manage Dynamics 365. So they added that. Okay, so that is pretty much it in a nutshell. I mean, most of these buttons, they're documented over here in the right-hand column. They're also there's really good documentation out on docs.microsoft.com about this stuff, and I'll send the links out to all that stuff. So what questions does everybody have? Well, that's kind of quick. No questions? Well, that's odd. I did not explain everything that well, did I? See, you had a couple from earlier. Let's see, let me send. Maybe it asks in regarding administration mode. When the system is in admin mode, can we execute our batches or access SDK through apps as well. You know, I've never turned it on. I'm assuming that what that means is only the administrators can log on. That's generally how something like that works, but I've never tried it. Munira said on the reset, make sure that you understand which version you're going, either 8.2 or 9.0, because you could accidentally pick the wrong one. That's a great thing. So when you do that reset, it asks you for the version number, and you don't want to downgrade accidentally because things just won't work right. What else we got here? Hong says, when does Microsoft automatically update to the latest version? Usually it's about 6 months. So what happens here, if I go to updates, pick one. I don't know if I have one left. This is one of those that may take a while. Generally, what I do, if I want to see how long the update cycle is I just go to the scheduling tool, which is just a calendar, 2 calendars technically, and I just basically push the next month button until until the dates drop off, and that tells you. Usually, it's like 6 months. You can have it extended if you've got circumstances that would cause a dramatic business interruption. So you could say, hey, you know, we can't do it right now because we're in the middle of an upgrade, or, you know, whatever it might be. And they have actually, you know, they will move it back. But generally, after about 6 months, somewhere in there, they will just start automatically cycling all of the non-upgraded ones into the system. But like I said, you can actually move that back if you want. Oh, you know, another thing I totally forgot to mention. When you upgrade, so like for instance, I've got an update coming in May, like I showed you. So 9.02 is supposed to ship this month. So right now we're at 9.01. So, and my instance I'm upgrading is at 8.2. So what will happen is when the upgrade is physically performed, you will get the last version available to you. So, assuming that 9.02 actually ships this month and is readily available, any of the new instances will get 9.02. That's so if you create one the day after it ships, or if you get upgraded, you will get the latest version. Let's see what we have here. So it looks like August 20th is the last date for the upgrade from 8.2 to 9.x. And again, you can move it back. I have had customers do that. And again, I don't know what the policy is, to be quite honest. See, Larry said, yeah, trials are still on 9.02, yeah, or 9.01. Yeah, I've actually, I thought they were shipping on the 2nd. And so pretty much every Monday I go spin a trial up to see if it's still 9.01 or given 9.02. And so far it's been 9.02. So it's coming out here soon. Alex says, is it possible to execute admin actions using Flow? Alex, I don't think so, but you can use PowerShell. I know that for a fact. And also it depends on what you consider an admin action. If you look at the Flow connector, it's really data oriented. So creating records, updating records, deleting records, things like that. There's not a ginormous amount of control that we have from the Flow interface into Dynamics 365. But PowerShell, there is a lot of PowerShell stuff out there. Sean McNellis and a couple of other guys created this PowerShell library. It's up on GitHub that has just a tremendous number of PowerShell scripts that lets you do anything you can imagine. So we have PowerShell built into the system. It's part of the SDK. There's a few handfuls of PowerShell scripts there. They're all instance and management related. So you can actually do management from PowerShell, and then the support guys created the PowerShell library to do anything related to data and all the other stuff. Okay. Anything else anybody has? Marcel has what do you do when you want a trial and you don't have a company name? You put in anything you want. They don't care. The only issue that I've ever run into is, and this is funny, they have a limit to the number of trials that you could sign up for in a period. Okay. Um, I was teaching a workflow class a couple years ago, and being the good instructor I am, I went and signed everybody up for a trial, and there was like 9 people. Well, the next week I went to sign up for a trial for something else totally unrelated, and I never got the text message. That because they're basically, what happens, you sign in and they'll text you a code you have to type in to prove you're not a robot. I never got it, so I signed up for another one. I never got it, and finally I just asked a question. I said, "Hey, is there a secret to this? Is there a limit in there?" And turns out that your phone number they record, and if you they have a limit on it. I don't know if it still exists, but at the time, if you had signed up for like 10 trials in 90 days or something like that, it would actually exclude you. Which I thought was funny. I knew it was happening because other people, other friends had actually run into something very similar where he just started ignoring them. And so that's the only thing that I've seen. But the company name is totally irrelevant. All you have to make sure is that you have to have a real phone number and real email address, and then the company name is irrelevant, and then you have to pick an organization name that is unique. That's all you need to do. Like I said, right now I've signed up for 2 trials trying to see if 9.02 had shipped yet. So whatever you'd like to do. Pam says it still exists. She hasn't been able to create any trials in the past 5 weeks. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, it's like I said, I finally asked the question because I'm like, okay, I know I've hurt somebody's feelings very badly. So let me just ask the question. And sure enough, oh yeah, we do that. And I'm like, oh, thank you for telling us. Larry said Gus had a student in tears because he couldn't get a trial. Yeah, I've seen it before. Same thing. I think Julie's done the same thing where they're in class and all of a sudden nobody could sign up for a trial because they'd signed up for too many. Anyway, well, any other questions on this stuff? Nope, that sounds like it. Oh, tip. Larry has a tip. Be sure to use code embedded in the text message, not the number it's from. Yeah, there's a code that comes from that's inside the text message. Okay, well, thanks a lot, everybody. Have yourself a great weekend, and we will talk to you later. Like I said, I'll have this uploaded here shortly, and that's about it. Have a great weekend. Thanks, everybody.